I think by using the Picohs as opposed to just using the Scratch, it's given that real purpose so that when the children do code, they can instantly see that impact that it's having on the robot, and then they're able to use those debugging skills immediately. Whereas I think sometimes when it's on Scratch, it doesn't always look the same. And if it isn't moving or doing what they want, then they know instantly they've got to go back and redo it. And I think that's what's really enhanced this project and children's thinking.
We'd taught conditionals in the past and we'd use Scratch in the same way, but actually having a physical device that was more human-like just gave it more meaning and more purpose, and they seemed to understand the concept better.
What I found really interesting, and I hope is a transferable skill that we can apply to other areas of the curriculum, is that these children that weren't able really to express themselves verbally, or perhaps on a wall display publicly, which they would often do in the morning with their class teacher, were able to do it with Picoh. And yeah, it just began to serve as an expressive outlet for children, which was fantastic.
And seeing it there, that this object here with a face and it moves around, is something that they can move around using programming. And I think that's really important, and and I can see the excitement they get out of that, of why this is an important thing to keep working on and improving their skills in the future.
My students have managed to grasp some of the more abstract concepts that they struggled with in the past, and it's almost like covert learning. They don't even realise that they're taking it in because they're having fun and they've got a purpose, and they don't want to leave at the end of a computing lesson. They want to keep on working on their code, and so it's just been a really rewarding experience.
Well, I'm incredibly pleased to say that we have some children now who are better able to express themselves than they were at the start of the project. That's certainly true. Children that have used it as an outlet for expression where previously they were completely non-verbal in terms of saying how they felt. We also found that as I tied it together with different scenario picture cards, that children were better able at the end of the project to recognise facial cues of people in different situations.
Some of the students got so motivated that they were writing really long codes to create their times table quiz, and that had its challenges, and lots of the code was kind of duplicating. So every time they got an answer right, the Picoh would nod its head and maybe go green and do happy eyes and play a sound. But then that would happen for every question. So some of them started learning about how to decompose the code and actually put it into different sections, and lots of kind of higher order computing principles that I wasn't planning on teaching with them, but suddenly it was relevant because they'd created more code and they understood it because it had a purpose.
I've been really impressed by what the children have achieved within Wormhole on this project. I think the project has allowed children to really push their application of computational thinking to a level that I don't see very often in other schools, and the Picoh project has really allowed for that. It's because it requires the use of conditionals and variables in a really defined way and with a really clear outcome. And some other projects you see around, they're not necessarily quite as defined as that, because for any sort of question and answer system to work, it requires those use of those tools, and there's no other way of doing it. There's no way to sort of cheat the program, where there are other ways of doing things when you're doing game creation or animation. There are ways of cheating the program to make it simpler, but there's no way of getting away from that, from using those more advanced programming constructs and concepts.